Hello and thank you for being a part of our network. Apple Macintosh computers have turned 30. We'll give you a bit of history of that icon later tonight. We're also hearing that the Syrian Electronic Army is continuing with its hacking work. They've moved to Twitter now. We'll also have a discussion about whether you own the copyright of information you post in social media. We are live. Contact us on SABC Network, on Facebook and Twitter, News Network at sabc.co.za and email. Let's start with your technology news and social media news now. Now, when traveling, it's sometimes an annoyance when you don't have the right plug because you have the thick South African three-way cable. The country is now getting new plugs, which are the same as those found all over the world. This is the plug South Africa's been using until now. It's not found anywhere else in the world. Now South Africa will be dropping the three-way plug and adopt the two-way found in most parts of the world. It will take a while before it hits the shelves. For now, walls will have a compromise that looks like this. It has both the three-way and two-way points. According to new statistics done by Effective Measure, if you live in South Africa and are between the ages of 20 and 40, then you use the internet more than any other South African. They also say you mostly use the internet for predominantly sending emails.
Effective Measure has partnered with Digital Media and Marketing Association to provide regular reports on local website and internet audience demographics. They say their stats are based on 112,875 survey. DMMA registered websites are used to conduct the online survey. According to them, most South Africans on the internet spend their time on email. This figure is at 88%. Despite many reports of online fraud, second on the list is online banking at 61%, which means it hasn't deterred many. Research is third, and reading news article is fourth, both at less than 61%. So fifth at under 60%. Gambling is last on the list and under 2%. Most products bought online are tickets for shows and sports events, books and DVDs. Domain names and hosting services are 18th on the list at 7.4%, suggesting that new websites are popping up everywhere. Johannesburg is number 1 on the list of cities at 27.49%, followed by Cape Town with 17.19% and Pretoria at 13.05%. Northern Cape Province has the lowest number of people active on the net at 1.15%.
The Zambia telecommunications company, Zamtel, is the second mobile phone operator in the country to launch a long-term evolution network, LTE. The first was launched last week by MTN in 4 towns. Zamtel has also set up a walk-in 4G Live experimental center. Both their LTE network and the 4G Live center are only in the town of Kitwe. Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa are installing a multi-billion rand underwater fiber cable. This should make internet connection quicker. Network's Tili Khaswane has the details for us.
The 5 BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. They're laying a 16 billion rands intercontinental superfast broadband network. Extensive network, the BRICS economies can enhance technology sharing and facilitate financial transactions. The key to growing their trade margins will largely rely on how fast data will travel among the countries. And more importantly for us, how fast will South Africa receive and send data? Neotel, like many of the local telecom operators, is preparing to connect to the BRICS cable. The landline operator says it's investing significantly in reducing network latency between the 5 countries. This means Neotel is working on reducing the amount of time it will take for South African data to reach the BRIC countries. The company says its latency to China and India is already the best in the South African market. Currently, Neotel uses the global footprint of its parent company, Tata Communications of India, for quicker access to BRICS countries. Neotel, this has given the company a competitive advantage over its competitors, which it says route their data to the BRIC countries through distant Europe. It is scheduled to become operational in 2015.
An 18-year-old boy in Zimbabwe is being accused of starting a Facebook rumor that declared President Robert Mugabe dead. The teenager was arrested and is out on 300 rand bail.
Upon returning from his annual break in Singapore, Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe sought medical attention in his country. This sparked rumors that the almost 90-year-old statesman is dead. A teenage boy by the name of Kumisai Manluwa was arrested for allegedly starting this gossip. It was reported that the boy posted a Facebook status saying the president had kicked the bucket and was being preserved in a freezer. The teenager was detained for 2 nights in prison before being released on bail. President Mugabe's health has had many tongues wagging lately. However, officials have denounced rumors of the president's ailment, insisting that their leader is in good health.
This year's African division of the International Association for Science Parks will be at the Botswana Innovation Hub from 9 to 11 April. This year, they've teamed up with the country's capital, Gaborone. The theme is Science and Technology Parks, Expanding Economic Frontiers in Africa. They're calling on those interested in speaking at the event to let them know before Friday, 31 January. Here's Dr. Jeffrey Selega of the Botswana Innovation Hub.
The theme will be Science and Technology Parks, Expanding Economic Frontiers in Africa. There are about 3 sub-themes. The first one being the science parks and economic diversification. This one really will be focusing on the role of science and technology parks in addressing job creation and socio-economic challenges in Africa. And then the second theme is the Africa and innovation. This one is what will be focusing on what are the challenges in the continent that science, technology, and innovation can and is addressing. It also focuses on what are the practical examples of such innovations and how successful have they been.
The Apple Macintosh celebrates the Big 3-0 this month. It was unveiled on January 24, 1984 in San Francisco, California, in the United States of America. Here's Lebo Sijage taking us back in history.
This day was to Steve Jobs and his team like the very first time a father introduced his first child to the world.
You've just seen some pictures of Macintosh. Now I'd like to show you Macintosh in person. All of the images you are about to see on the large screen will be generated by what's in that bag.
The 9-inch floppy disk desktop became a hit among American consumers, selling about 50,000 units shortly after its introduction. Fast forward 30 years later, the Apple Macintosh has doubled its popularity, not only within American borders, but globally. The desktop has, of course, evolved since the early 80s. Now popularly known as the Mac, this machine has gone from 9 inches to 21.5 and 27 inches over the years. It has a high-definition Retina display and it is 100% floppy disk-free. To many, it is preferred over other brands.
Netflix may not be available in South Africa, but the video streaming site is showing major success. They've also announced a planned expansion. It's still not clear whether it will be added to their list of new territories.
A brimming Reed Hastings, the CEO of the video streaming service, reported a 2.3 million jump in subscribers in the last quarter of 2013. This means Netflix wrapped the year with a total of 44 million subscribers worldwide. It is expected 2014 growth will be in the double digits.
I think the key is, having unique content, a great reputation, a good value proposition, and we can succeed. And in many cases, the competitors can also. So, we mostly focus on finding, good markets that, love content and that will steadily expand in Europe.
Hastings says Netflix is experimenting with pricing, including a cheaper single-screen option. He also says the company has no plans to cram advertisements down people's throats.
We're trying to figure out some models of good, better, best price tiering that makes sense and provide some flexibility for our customers, at least for our new customers. Our existing customers, of course, we would grandfather very generously.
As far as international expansion plans, Reed would not name countries. In South Africa, access to Netflix is largely received illegally.
take a quick break now. When we return, we'll discuss why Human Rights Watch is unhappy with America's surveillance procedures. SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter.
Sometimes a lot of people, in fact, do not have access, firstly, to palliative care. Secondly, even if they do,
So what? Do we just kill them if they don't have access to palliative care?
I think she's actually crucifying my question, with all due respect.
If you actually actively assist somebody to die, then you are convicted of murder.
Who should take the burden of terminating a life?
It's very problematic for doctors to play God.
That's Rights and Recourse, Sundays 2 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. Now, spying from America's National Security Agency has been getting a lot of flack from all over. The latest is from Human Rights Watch.
If we've got a CIA station just up the road in the consulate here in Hong Kong, and I'm sure they're going to be very busy for the next week. And that's a fear I'll live under for the rest of my life, however long that happens to be.
Edward Snowden is a name that has become synonymous with trouble in North America. He's a former National Security Agency contractor who blew the whistle on the U.S. government. Snowden revealed that the NSA was violating Americans' constitutional right to privacy. This made the whistleblower enemy of the state and had him seeking refuge in other countries. In its annual report, Human Rights Watch showed a lot of unhappiness with the American government.
One way to show how crazy that is to think about the government putting video cameras in all of our bedrooms and saying, don't worry, the feed is just going into a government computer. We won't look at it unless we have a special reason to do so. Would you feel satisfied with that? Would you feel that your privacy was not being violated? Of course not. But that's exactly what the government is doing with our private communications.
Brazil also reports being victim to U.S. surveillance. In protest of the spying, Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff decided to snub a scheduled meeting with American President Barack Obama in September 2013.
To discuss Human Rights Watch's concerns with America's surveillance methods, we are now joined by Tiseke Kasambala. She's the Southern Africa Director at Human Rights Watch. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
Now, what are these new methods?
Well, there are various methods that Edward Snowden, as you saw in this piece, revealed. The first one is the fact that the U.S. government has been collecting telephone metadata from nearly every U.S. citizen for many years now under Section 215 of the Patriot Act. So its National Security Agency has been collecting this data without the knowledge of U.S. citizens. Obviously, that comes with a lot of problems apart from the right to privacy. The second issue is that the U.S. has also been intercepting the communications of billions of people across the world, foreign nationals, using Section 702 of its Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and Executive Order 12333. That's a presidential order. And so, again, what we're talking about is people unknowingly being spied on by the U.S. government.
But the U.S. government is trying to protect the country and probably trying to protect its citizens, no?
What they're saying, yes, is that what they're using this information for is for national security. It's in the interest of national security and is to protect the country from terrorism. And what we're saying and what others have said is that there is no evidence that this information actually reveals the kind of information they're looking for that normal conventional methods of intelligence wouldn't. And we believe that the scope, the sheer scope of the surveillance and data collection is in bulk. It simply just violates people's right to privacy.
Why do you think it violates the rights to privacy? Because they can say they're not sharing the information with anybody.
Well, the fact that there's so much secrecy around it lends itself to all sorts of practices. This kind of information, who knows what it can be used for? The US government has been very private. It hasn't revealed what it's using this information for. We believe some of it has not even been used just for national security. So it's very unlimited in scope. And what we're saying is there should be limitations. We're not saying that they shouldn't intercept communications where necessary, but this should be within the interest of national security. And to date, they haven't proved that that is the fact. And so and then also, I mean, this has a chilling effect on how we communicate. I mean, digital technology now is allowing governments to use the internet as a tool, which definitely affects how you and I communicate in terms of debates, political debates. People will now start to censor themselves, and that has a chilling effect on the rights to freedom of speech and association.
Is America the only country in the world that's doing this?
They're not the only country in the world. The information that Edward Snowden revealed actually also revealed other countries, such as the Indian government, for example, is reportedly building its own mass surveillance communications tool. We also have evidence that Russia is intercepting the communication of its citizens, especially as it leads up to the Sochi Olympics. France and Germany also have mass surveillance programs which allow them to intercept people's communication without judicial orders, for example. So it's a very worrying trend. But the US is the most powerful, and it's the first time we heard how far the US has gone in looking into its own citizens and foreign nationals' communications. And it could lead to other governments following suit, because there's evidence that apparently India is actually looking at copying the US mass surveillance program.
All right, well, Tiseke Kasambala from Human Rights Watch, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, and don't forget to send us videos where you are talking about the apps you love. Also record yourself playing around with the app. You can upload them on YouTube or Facebook and share links with us. Today we have Tepang Chabalala from Centurion. She loves BBM.
My name is Tepang Chabalala and I'm a full-time student. So guess which phone I use? Of course, the BlackBerry. I have a number of apps on my phone: BBM, WhatsApp, Twitter, PicMix, Screen Grab, you know, the normal stuff that everybody uses. But the one that I use the most will be my BBM, of course. Because unlike WhatsApp, you can actually control the people you talk to and the number of people we talk to and when you talk to them. Unlike WhatsApp, where they'll say what you're doing. It doesn't happen like that on BBM. And yeah, so that's why I like my BlackBerry. And we're using the iPhone 5 now to take this video.
Right, so let's take a short break. We're chatting about copyright of material in social media. After the break, SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter.
If you do nothing, you can expect nothing. I'm gonna vote because I'm stoked about the opportunities here.
I'm voting for my children's future.
Why? Because I love this country.
I'm voting because I care about what happens.
Yes, of course I'm gonna vote, man. I'm excited about the future.
Why? Because South Africa belongs to all of us.
IEC. I vote South Africa.
I'm looking at Philip Hawkins, he's looking dapper today, and then Sam Murray has got all the results, including that heartwarming try by the Bucks.
Spongile Khumalo, Mbuso Khoza, Ringo Madlingozi and Kulichana are some of the musical acts that will headline this year's Live at the Market Theatre series of music concerts.
Justice Minister Jeff Radebe says government is not undermining the independence of public protector Thuli Madonsela.
The public protector has, in our view, unreasonably denied us the opportunity to properly engage the report.
An airport resembles a war zone in the Philippines. In its wake, damage, debris, and death.
Why did you guys decide to name the debut album Treasure?
Treasure, oh, because of my late granny told me that I'm a stone, then I saw it like, okay, since I'm a stone, this is a treasure.
That's Morning Live, daily at 6 a.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back to Network. A lot of us post information, grievances and suggestions on companies' social media pages. But how much right do we have in claiming for payment should companies use this info to gain profits? Take a look at this on-app ad on social media copyright. To discuss social media and copyright flouting and other issues is interactive media strategist Dylan McLaren. Welcome, Dylan.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Now, once I've posted information on social media pages, how much right do I have over them?
It's a very important question, and I think it's, as with so many things in life, terms and conditions apply. First and foremost, copyright law in South Africa dictates that a copyright, an item or a creation will be protected by copyright provided it is original. If you put something original on the internet, on one of these social media networks, it's then important to remember that the Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube terms and conditions apply. And those dictate that we give them a license to use our content for their own purposes. And it is quite a holistic license and an all-encompassing license. So Facebook or Twitter can use the content that you put on their platforms. However, having said that, it's important to then remember that big brands operating on these platforms don't own the content that you can post and can't use it for commercial or profitable use without your express consent.
Right, so if you post information on a big brand's Facebook page, for example, they can't use it.
No, well, again, I think there are technicalities that are important. A good example is Kodak in America. What they did was they hosted a competition where users could submit photographs, which would then go on the cover photo of the brand. And the most important thing was the terms and conditions of that competition, which users could then read through and understand how their content would be used. If they do this in a dubious manner, you can call them to task on it.
And sometimes you click accept without really reading.
That's almost always these days.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the examples here at home where big brands flouted copyright laws?
Locally, we have a very recent example, which occurred at the end of last year, where Woolworths was involved in a bit of a saga online, where social media platforms were abuzz with news about the hummingbird, which was designed by a small design shop in South Africa called Touchy Feely Design. And Touchy Feely then alleged that Woolworths had stolen this design from them after entering into agreement with them, and it got quite convoluted. But the point is social media acted as a tool to expose this activity. I must add, though, that it subsequently transpired that Woolworths was not held to account because of technicalities in the design and how it was created. But the important thing, again, is that social media can act as a place to call out big brands in these David Goliath situations and bring them to task for stealing people's ideas if they ever do so.
And if people have grievances with a big company, can they take those grievances to their social media pages and expect them that they're going to respond?
Absolutely. I think brands that build these online assets need to remember the reason they're there is to connect with and communicate with your consumers and your followers. And you need to listen to them. It's a wonderful thing for a brand to be able to obtain complaints online in that they can rectify those situations. But then again, the key is to be online and active and make sure you take note of what your customers are saying to you.
But is it advisable for people to do this?
It's an interesting question. I think as a consumer in South Africa especially, we can get quite aggressive with our complaints, and we must remember that anything we publish online can be used against us at a later stage. It is published in the public, and it can be used against us in a court of law, for example. So it is advisable where you want a response from the brand, but I think people must be careful with exactly what they say and sometimes calm down a bit before you lash out at the brand online.
Right. And can companies say they haven't, come back to you and say they haven't received any grievances if you posted them online because you didn't do it through the normal corporate channels?
Again, I think brands need to be very careful. If they build these platforms and open themselves up to complaints on the internet, they need to respond when people complain. They shouldn't be able to say we didn't obtain it. Having said that, again, in your bio on your Facebook page, you should inform your customers when you will be active and when you will be responding and what hours of the day you'll be operating.
Now, what are the two most important things big brands should understand about copyright issues?
I think first and foremost, understand the platforms that you're operating on. Appreciate them for all the advantages they give you and all the pitfalls, all the risks that you enter into by using them. And then make sure you have the right people managing these platforms. And then secondly, understand the law and how this dynamic area of social media, online, digital, interactive media and the law are clashing together, and nothing's really clear. There's a lot of grey areas, and make sure you stay on your toes and know what's going on.
Earlier you mentioned that if people post information in social media, it can be used against them in the court of law. But how should companies respond to negative comments about them?
I always encourage the brands that Troika works with to respond quickly and effectively. Having said that, make sure you don't respond immediately if a legal response is needed, and that you try and add value to that user. You can often turn a negative customer into a brand ambassador if you handle their complaint correctly.
All right, Dylan McLaren, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Now let's take a look at some of what's been happening in social media. Many in the Southern African region celebrated with the country. They took to social media to celebrate. Officers of SANRAL, the company in charge of the electronic tolling system on highways, have received 2 anthrax scares. They've been receiving letters with white powder. This has been a chatting point for many. Some have been sharing outrage and disappointment over a child who fell into a pit toilet and died in South Africa. There are those who say they didn't even know pit toilets still exist in South African schools. That's all we have. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, News Network at sabc.co.za on email. We leave you with a cool video with over 1 million views on YouTube. Check what happens when a watermelon is blown up in slow motion. From me and the rest of the team, have a good one.
Oh.